Dream Theater is known for their lengthy, complex, and oftentimes cinematic approach to music. All throughout their career, they have made music that challenges the listener and rewards them for listening very closely. And that reward is a more enriched experience in both a spiritual sense and for the betterment of John Mayung. In this video, we will enter the halls of enrichment and explore the ultimate gift that a progressive rock and metal band of this caliber can possibly give us. Would that be a cameo from Kevin James LaBrie? No. Could it be a lifetime supply of beard oil from John Petrucci?
And it smells unbelievable. It's
No. Okay, how about an AI replica of Jordan Rudess? That would be cool, wouldn't it? Absolutely the hell not. Well, how about the return of Mike Portnoy? Maybe. But that's still not quite the right answer. So what is exactly the best thing that a prog rock or metal band can give to its fans? How about a concept album with interconnecting and weaving musical vibrations known as recurring themes? Well, this is exactly what Dream Theater has given us with their latest release, Parasomnia, released in the darkest of winters in the Gregorian calendar month of February 2025. And they gave us a concept album full of little Easter eggs and nuggets and little tiny recurring themes and sometimes very large recurring themes for all of us nerds and dorks to stumble upon. So in this video, I am going to present to you all of the recurring themes of Parasomnia by Dream Theater. At least the ones that I could find. If I'm missing any, you know where to put them. Down in the comments section below. Oh, by the way, you should like the video and you should subscribe to the channel if you're watching this, you silly goose. Now, moving on, we need to qualify exactly what a recurring theme is so we can count what we're going to count. I will be keeping only to a few definitions of what a recurring theme actually is, starting from the most strict definition to the least strict definition. The first one is going to be a musical motif that is repeated through multiple tracks and strung throughout the album. So let's say we have a theme set up in track number 1, and then all of a sudden a few songs go by, and in track number 4 that theme comes back. And then another couple songs go by, that theme comes back again, but in a different way. That is a recurring theme, and that is the one that I'm going to focus on the most for this video. I will also be including themes within the album's longer songs that may take a good while to get back to, or might not be quite as obvious to the untrained ear. So let's say you have a song that's, 12 minutes long, and it takes 8 minutes to get back to a theme, and it's in a totally mangled and different way than the original version that you heard. I'm going to include things like that. Or how about if you have a song that's, 19 minutes and 30 seconds? Yeah, you can see where this is going. I will also be taking some liberties with the idea of a recurring theme by adding in some honorable mentions that I thought were pretty cool. Alright, so let's get on into it. A large majority of the themes come out of the very first track, titled In the Arms of Morpheus. This is known as sort of the overture of the album, and the band members in previous interviews have said this exact thing. Now the first theme that we're going to take a look at is called the alarm clock idea. That's right, it's not even quite a musical theme, it's more of a sound effect theme, but take a listen to the very beginning here. Close your eyes, Nicholas? I'm being a little tongue-in-cheeky there, but it does remind me of Scenes from a Memory a little bit. Let's fast forward all the way to the end of the album and see what we got.
Wake up.
Open your eyes, Nicholas. I continue to be cheeky with my humor here. Now, here's the thing about this theme. It is actually reinforced once again with the first heavy riff that comes in. You hear all that chaos, all that alarm clock nonsense going on with that 8-string guitar and all that bull crap? Well, that's basically the vibe that's going to be carried over through almost the entire album. There's a lot of alarm clocky type of things going on here. But those are the first 3 examples, so let's go right through them again. We start off with a man setting his alarm to go to sleep, only to be drawn into a world of terror and chaos. Only for him to be woken out of his sleep, terrified and scared. Next theme. Ah yes, the very first theme, starting in F minor. Very beautiful chord progression. So yeah, that theme in F minor is established at the very, very beginning. It's the first musical idea that we actually hear, and it's also the most repetitive one that we're going to see later on in the tracks. Alright? The next example happens to be this up a whole step, but with vocals instead. A broken man chorus section, that happens 3 times, alright? So far that's 4 different iterations of this event going on so far. And this continues, it persists into the intro of Dead Asleep with a more atmospheric approach. It's also in the original key in addition to having that atmospheric approach. Next on the agenda is the same idea, but much later in the song, and it's more distorted. And it's still instrumental, but the approach, especially the rhythmic approach, is a little more on the eastern side. Alright, so a little bit off kilter with some of the rhythms when you listen to them up close. This part also highly reminds me of Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne. A cool homage to the Ozman Dream Theater. This band is never afraid to wear their inspiration on their sleeves. In fact, Inspiration Corner is a staple in the band's history if you've ever watched the making of documentaries. If you haven't, I suggest you go do so. They're very fun and educational. The same idea persists on the outro of Dead Asleep with the same atmospheric and spacey idea. Now, Dead Asleep somehow gives us the same amount of iterations as A Broken Man, but this doesn't have it as a chorus. It's just an instrumental sandwich that happens outside of the song. At least in A Broken Man, you have a chorus section that repeats 3 times organically like that as a part of the song structure. But here, we got a big old instrumental at the beginning that segues into the song, and then 2 instrumental passages of varying dynamics to lead us out of the song. Alright? I just thought that was interesting. But so far we have 7 different versions of this, and we take a little bit of a break for a few tracks, okay? Sad to say, I miss it a little bit. But once we fast forward to the end of the album, well, we get it once more again with the Shadow Man. The final iteration of the theme, and of course the most epic of them all to basically bring the album to a close. Now this theme, of course, is the most repetitive recurring theme that we have, so I'm going to call it the Parasomnia theme. And we have 8 iterations that occur that I would like to review. Let's go back to 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 back on that mother brr. Let's see. Back to 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 back. That's 8 back to 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 backs. And that's where we gotta go. So let's listen to it, darn it. The next theme that occurs doesn't happen quite as often, but I like to refer to it as the clock theme because it sounds like a ticking clock. What do you know? So let's check these out as it occurs throughout the album. The first instance happens in Morpheus as a heavy palm-muted whole tone idea. This is then seen next in Are We Dreaming, the transitional segue song, as bells. And once again at the end of the Shadow Man incident as a weird horn. Next up from Morpheus is what Mike Portnoy has referred to as the Star Wars theme. Let's see if you agree. An extremely dissonant idea, of course. With a flat 2 going to a minor 1, and then a flat 5. With a descending major chord line that makes me feel like I have a bunch of holes in my brain. And that resolves, quote unquote, on a secondary dominant. So it's all tension all of the time with this part. And we don't get to see it until way later on in the Shadow Man incident at the end of the album. We also hear this much later in the song as well. This next theme also happens in Morpheus and in the Shadow Man incident, so I'm starting to notice a trend here. This overture, or introductory track to this concept album, is really trying to set up the big epic at the end. And I don't blame them, because you need a lot of material to make a song that long. So let's check that out real fast. Here's the first example from In the Arms of Morpheus. To the Shadow Man incident. Let's go back to Morpheus. And back to the Shadow Man incident. Now this is a very recognizable chord progression from the prog rock world, alright? It definitely is reminiscent of Rush. It is the Lydian mode, okay? And Dream Theater is guilty of using this mode very, very often, but it sounds very cool. It has a sharp fourth, all right? So in this first progression, basically goes to A, and then down to F, and then outlines the sharp fourth of the chord, all right? So that's a tritone on top of the root, all right? And then we basically modulate to B, to G. And it modulates a total of 3 times, basically. The first iteration is, of course, with Jordan Rudess's synthesizer. And then the second is just straight up John Petrucci's nasty guitar tone. You know the deal. So like I was saying, tons of these ideas wind up pointing in the direction of the Shadow Man incident due to its length. And this next example is no exception. Let's see if you can recognize it from the first track and the way that it's presented later. Were you able to guess it? Yes, that melodic guitar solo, or at least the first half of it, represents a chorus section that is repeated a couple of times later on in, you guessed it, the Shadow Man incident. And it sounds like this. There's also another iteration that occurs in the segue track, Are We Dreaming? Oh, it touches on it ever so slightly, but it's very, 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 very nice, and it sounds... oh, so emotional. So 3 different versions in total. We have one in the Arms of Morpheus as a guitar solo, a second in Are We Dreaming as a nice atmospheric keyboard sound, and the third and final variation as a fully fleshed out chorus for Shadow Man. Now of course it was only a matter of time until we got to Bend the Clock. That second part of the Morpheus guitar solo is the chorus section of Bend the Clock. So let's hear the Morpheus guitar solo. Bend the Clock. And this idea continues all the way through the ending as well. Very long-winded idea. Great riff. I just love that song. It's one of the best on the entire album, I'm telling you. Now, in addition to the melodic recurring themes, we also have some moods and vibes that are created using some very specific guitar effects, like highly reverberated, and using very similar chord tones as well, like Night Terror, Midnight Messiah, and Dead Asleep. Now, of course, this doesn't count as a full-blown melodic theme, but it is worth pointing out that these intervals, the tritone going to these movements, really add to the creepy factor, all right? Midnight Messiah has that as well. And then, there's that tritone once again. And Dead Asleep just happens to have the same type of clean guitar, right? Super ominous. It has a sense of foreboding that cannot be ignored throughout the 3 tracks. Now this next one kind of caught me by surprise, so I'm just going to play all of these examples back to back and see if you can see the common thread between them. Melodically, it's all the same idea, and harmonically, it's the same idea. And it starts with this seemingly random guitar solo toward the end of Night Terror. Listen for both harmonic and melodic content. In Are We Dreaming, it's more harmonic. Shadow Man brings back more of the melodic content while keeping the harmonic stuff the same. Then Shadow Man again, bringing it back as another guitar solo. Then Shadow Man again. And when I first listened to Parasomnia, I had no idea that this was a recurring theme. I just thought it was some random guitar solo in the middle of Night Terror. Well, guess what? Turns out it's the second most used recurring theme in the entire album, and I didn't even notice it. Silly me. The next couple of examples occur within a singular track, so these don't really count as true album themes, but they occur within a large enough space that they're kind of hard to pick up on. And this is within Dead Asleep and Shadow Man. So here's the one from Dead Asleep. Notice how this first one is a guitar solo, and notice how this one is just a low, beefy riff. And we actually have 2 examples from Shadow Man. Here's the first one. Here the melody is represented as the vocals. Then it's called back upon as a guitar solo. And there's one more example of this that occurs. Basically the intro riff right here doesn't come back until 15 minutes later, but as an orchestral tapestry of sound. Now that pretty much covers all of the proper recurring themes of the album, but there are some honorable mentions that I would like to, well, mention. Starting with this tiny little subtle thing within the Broken Man solo section. This triplet idea gets called back upon during Shadow Man on another solo section. Is that too subtle? I don't know, you be the judge, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was done intentionally. Now I also included some examples of inspirations that Dream Theater likes to wear on their sleeves, starting with this that sounds like Tool. So both Tool and Ozzy Osbourne being ripped off in the same album. But what if I told you that Dream Theater doesn't just rip off other bands, they also rip off themselves? Check these out. This solo section in Dead Asleep reminds me very heavily of Beyond This Life. Yeah, that one's pretty on the nose, isn't it? How about this one? The Octavarium example right there was so on the nose that I actually thought I was listening to Octavarium in the middle of it. And turns out, it's on the longest song of the album too. So I'm, listening to a song for 12, 13 minutes, and that part comes in, right? Similar to the Octavarium experience, even though that's slightly longer. Anyway, thanks so much everybody for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you'd like to further support the channel, please go to www.subscribestar.com or www.patreon.com/RomanOva Music, and you can pledge whatever you want. I have some tiers up there. You can also reach out on my website if you need help with music in general. I am a music instructor, so if you need lessons or any kind of private tutoring, then let me know and I will help you out in that regard. You can also like the video, comment on the video, leave a nice comment. I like compliments. You can leave a mean comment, but I might get argumentative, all right? I might argue with you in the comments because that's just what I like to do. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to bring some more good stuff to you later on in life. Goodbye.